Charms are modifiers you equip on your build, and they come in the regular gold and silver minor versions. Those minor ones can be quite useful though, so don't overlook them, but of course the regular gold charms are the best. One that you definitely want to make sure to get as early as possible is the Charm of Inari. With this equipped, you'll get a lot more supplies, predator hides, bamboo, and yew wood when collecting them. You'll get anywhere from about 80 to 120% more than normal, so about double on average. You're going to need a ton of those resources for upgrades and inventory capacity unlocks, so getting this charm as soon as you can really does make a big difference. The Charm of Inari comes from completing the Arrow Peak Shrine, located down here in the southern part of the Act 1 region. This is one of the Shinto shrines, which are always marked by these distinct torii gates, both in the open world and on the map once you get close enough to discover them. Shinto shrines simply involve a climbing and platforming challenge, so they're easy to complete and always give a gold charm. Another one that's nice to get early is the Charm of Okinanushi, which comes from the Mending Rock Shrine over here on the map. This one will let you passively recover health while outside of combat. Now that becomes much less useful as you get more comfortable with the combat system and increase your max health and resolve charges. But early on when these are limited, the charm is pretty nice to have. I like to slap it on an unused outfit so I can quickly switch over to it when I need to heal up and then switch back to my main outfit. Oh, and remember, you can apply the same charm to as many outfits as you want once you have it. I definitely made the mistake of thinking they could only be equipped on one outfit at a time for a while during my first playthrough. Not all of your charm slots can accept the regular gold ones though, so you'll want to pay attention to minor charms too. A lot of players ignore these at first, but being able to customize your build with additional charms is really helpful, and most of the charms in the game are the minor variety, which come from completing side quests. By default, a few of your charm slots will be locked though, and to unlock them you need to find Inari shrines. Inari shrines are always marked by a distinct yellow-leafed tree with lots of glowing fireflies around it, and
I remember there was two good ones. The one charm with the powder bomb, and he throws it on the enemy, and then the enemy start burning. That is rugged. Then there's another one when you get the flaming sword, and then the enemy takes off running. When he sees his partner's on fire, he just says forget about it. He just takes off running. None of those two. There's probably like 100 of them things though. But I remember those two. The Charm of Incineration or something like that. Okay, what the hell?
Very enthusiastic fox at the base. The fox will coax you into following it to the shrine a short distance away, where you simply need to honor it. Doing so will give you a point towards unlocking a new charm slot, but you'll need quite a few Inari shrines to unlock all the slots. So to find them easily, you can spend a technique point on the Wind of Inari Guiding Wind ability. Now on the map, you can set your Guiding Wind to direct you to the nearest fox to find them easily. You can unlock Guiding Wind abilities for a number of things too, like those Shinto shrines that have the gold charms, and also bamboo strikes and hot springs. Hot springs can be bathed in to permanently increase Jin's maximum health, so those are definitely worth seeking out, though you don't necessarily need the guiding wind for them. If you just remember to look up often enough, you can look for white steam rising in the sky and make your way towards that. I think a lot of players do tend to seek out the hot springs, but then overlook the bamboo strikes, which are
Check out how this app helped me buy whatever I want in my favorite game. Limited money makes it so you can get what you want from the game right from jump without...
which are, in my opinion, even more important. Bamboo strikes give you points towards increasing your resolve, which are the golden healing charges above your health bar. So basically, bamboo strikes permanently increase your ability to heal. You can often find them in or near major settlements, but there's a bunch out in the open world, and it can be a bit tricky to track down enough of them. I would definitely seek out a bunch of bamboo strikes early on to increase your resolve as much as possible, but they require you to press a sequence of buttons very quickly. So if you need some more time to do those, you can go into the accessibility settings and change the minigame controls to simplified. That'll give you way more time to press all the buttons. Now, I know it's easy to feel like spending technique points on the guiding wind abilities is a waste, but I honestly think it's a mistake to not invest in at least a couple of these early. I'd personally prioritize at least getting Wind of Resolve and Wind of Inari. You'll use them throughout a large chunk of the game, and they'll be most useful if you get them early. While exploring, you're going to come across a lot of Mongol camps, many of which have leaders. When you roll up to a camp, you'll get objectives in the top left, and you always want to check to see if observing the leader is one of those objectives. See, observing and killing Mongol leaders is how you get points for unlocking new stances. The 4 stances are a core part of the combat system, and it takes quite a few points to unlock them all. Getting the Observe Leader objective essentially lets you double dip on points, because you'll get one for observing and one for killing them. But it's really easy to accidentally miss out on points by killing the Mongol leaders without observing them first. So when you roll up to a camp, always check to see if you have the Observe Leader objective, and then make sure you do that before killing them. And if the leader notices you before you have a chance to observe them, just run away to disengage and then circle back to get that observation in. Not all camps have a leader, and not all that do will give you the objective, so just make sure to always keep an eye out for it. But speaking of stances, not using the correct one and generally misunderstanding what they do and how to use them properly is a very common mistake as well. I'm still working on my Essential Combat Guide, but the main thing to understand about the 4 stances is that they massively change your heavy attack and how effective that heavy attack is at breaking an enemy's block and staggering them. Matching the correct stance heavy attack with the enemy you're up against makes a huge difference. Take a look through the stances and you'll see that each one is specifically effective against swordsmen, shieldmen, spearmen, and the larger brute enemies. In combat, you always want to be switching to the correct stance for the enemy you're currently facing, and using that stance's heavy attack to break their block, which staggers them and opens them up for an attack. You can get fancy later on with the various combos the stances give you, but your bread and butter is going to be staggering an enemy with a few hits of the correct stance's heavy attack, and then going for a flurry of light attacks to finish them off. Even on higher difficulties, that's going to take enemies down very quickly. But once they are down, you may have noticed enemies aren't always totally dead. Sometimes they're still kicking a bit, and you need to end their suffering. It's very easy to forget to do this, but it's actually quite important. When you end suffering, you get a full charge on your resolve. So ending suffering is basically free heals. If your resolve is already full, you'll want to pop a charge or two to fill up any missing health before ending suffering to make sure you get the full benefit of the resolve charge. Another aspect of the combat system most people underutilize at the start are ghost weapons and the bow. With things like kunai and arrows, it can feel like you need to conserve them since you can't carry very many at the start and you're not sure how hard it's going to be to get more. Fortunately, the game is very good about giving you plenty of opportunities to loot tools and other ammo, so you really don't need to worry about that. Now, kunai are super useful because they instantly break an enemy's guard and stagger them for a moment. To be honest, it's actually kind of OP because it's basically the same result as doing a few heavy hits with the correct stance, but using kunai is way simpler and safer. Plus, they can hit multiple enemies at once. The other ghost weapons, like smoke bombs and sticky bombs, are certainly useful too, but kunai definitely stand out, so make sure you're not ignoring them. You can loot plenty as you go. Even more slept on than kunai are wind chimes. These are probably low down the list of ghost weapons you wanted to unlock, but that would be a mistake. The intended use for wind chimes is to bait a single enemy to the exact spot you want them for a stealthy assassination, and they work quite well for that. So if you're a stealthy player, you're definitely going to want these. But wind chimes also have a hidden ability that can be quite useful as well. See, the highlighted trajectory you get when aiming to throw a wind chime outlines the enemy that will get alerted. That's intended to show you who's going to be baited, but the key thing is that you can see their outline through walls and other obstructions, just like using the focus hearing ability. Of course, you can use focus hearing to see lots of enemies at once, but it has limited range.
Yeah, that's like the infrared thing, almost like with Mafia 3. You see who's near you. Remember that.
Especially before unlocking the higher levels. So this wind chime recon trick can come in handy when you're trying to establish where all the enemies are from far away. Also, there's sometimes a bonus objective in camps to detect a certain number of enemies without using focus hearing, and detecting them with the wind chime like this actually counts for that. I think people sleep on the short bow as well, since it's kind of weak to begin with. But once you upgrade it a few levels, it becomes much stronger, and unlocking concentration makes it way easier to aim. You can safely safely snipe enemies from relative safety, and even though their comrades will find their bodies and blow horns to alert the camp, they basically all just come running over to the body and then go back to doing whatever they were doing after a moment. They won't detect you as long as you stay reasonably hidden. So an upgraded bow is really useful for thinning the herd before heading in to take out the rest of the camp. Keep in mind, you can basically shoot the bow through corners of walls when you're in a situation where you can't sneak up to pull off an assassination. But you won't have much space in your quiver at first, and it's easy to forget to check in with the trapper merchants to upgrade the quiver as well as your carry capacity for tools. Upgrading lets you carry a lot more, which makes your bows and the various tools much more useful. Oh, and also keep in mind that different trappers have different things to sell you too. For example, some of them actually sell gold, which is required for some of the higher level katana upgrades. As you've probably found already, katana upgrades are really important, but it's easy to miss out on getting some of the higher level upgrades early because you lack gold. Having that charm of Inari we mentioned earlier will help you rack up resources that you can trade to the trappers for that gold, as well as other items and resources you might need. Now, a mistake I definitely made on my first playthrough was not prioritizing the mythic tails early enough. These give you powerful combat abilities, like the unblockable Heavenly Strike, which you should definitely think about picking up as soon as possible. In fact, the Heavenly Strike is the only mythic combat art you can unlock in the Act 1 region. We go into more depth on the other mythic combat arts in my starting tips video, and when I have that ready, I'll link it right here on screen for you. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you over there in just a second.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, but that main thing, finding those charm things for that stuff, that was good. Cause I remember one time, I remember I played the game over, I forgot to turn them on. I was like, why the crap ain't working? So I forgot to turn those charm things on. But yeah, finding that hidden stuff is something else. I don't know what the new Ghost game is like. Is it similar with that kind of stuff? It's probably a whole new system. And then those sword systems, some of them I don't like. Well, the one where he tried to do martial arts, I'm not crazy about that system. But the other, there's two I like and two I don't like. But like a lot of the hidden stuff, I usually ran up on like a lot of the hidden bandanas. Usually like run across those anyway when you go to certain places up in the mountains or in the woods somewhere. We usually find most of that stuff. You just running around. Like with the mission with Sensei, what's his name? So there was a bandana back there with you finding that Tomoe woman. So yeah, they just usually run across that stuff when you sometime at random, sometimes you just run across it, don't even hardly know it.